Hello, Kim. Hello, and hello, everyone.
Hey, Eddie. Hi, everybody.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm excited to geek out and get started today.
Oh, me too. Me too. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to geek out with you. I love, it's only been what, 3 weeks, and I've missed it that we haven't been able to geek out for a lot. It's been 3 weeks since we.
It has. It's true. We need to find out some more ways to geek out. I definitely think that would be a good idea.
I would love that. Let's see, CubeCon. We can maybe do some geeking out at CubeCon if you're going. I don't know if you're a CubeCon kind of guy.
I am not this time, but next time, next time. I'm sure we'll find some other events. I want to have a look at your bio drop events tab and see what events you got coming up as well.
Yeah, it's not a lot. The one is the one that we talked about on DMing was the Scale Conference, the Southern California Linux Expo. Um, and it's a one of the largest community run conferences. It's been held in Pasadena for the past, I don't even know how many years. Well, they're at 21, so a long time. And they don't just talk about Linux, they've really expanded to be talking about a lot of open source topics. And so they were like, let's get the BioDrop event, or let's get our event on BioDrop. And the call for proposals is open. So if you are an open source lover and geek, take a look at Scale 21X and submit to the call for proposals.
I love that. Okay, we'll definitely cover that at the end, and I'll have a look through your Twitter feed and see if I can pin something to the top. So we're going to get started, everyone, in a couple of minutes. Francesco's already eagerly put their hand up, so we'll do intros and we'll talk about the agenda for today. But Francesco, what's happening?
Yeah, I raised my hand because I'm literally in my car going to watch a movie, but I wanted to show support to the amazing EddieHub community. Check bio drop if you are in this Twitter space. You will never get disappointed. My job here is done. You know the meme, Eddie. That's it.
Thank you so much, Francesco. Enjoy the movie, and I'm sure we'll catch up tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. Bye.
Thanks, bye. Drive carefully. Okay, it's 2 minutes past. Everyone knows I like to start on time. I see lots of people requesting to come up on stage. We will bring you up on stage shortly. Let's just get started. So I have Kim with me, and Kim I met a few weeks ago at CIVO event in London, and we geeked out for 2 days. It was awesome, and Kim is very knowledgeable in the community and open source space and many other things. So I actually want to pass the mic over to Kim and let Kim do a proper intro.
Okay, thank you so much, Eddie. Yeah, we had a great time just geeking out, as you said, for 2 days there in London. Yeah, I have been in open source and community, principally within Cloud Native for a number of years. I was with the Cloud Native Computing Foundation and the Linux Foundation for 5 years. And for the past couple of years, I've been bringing open source and community building to organizations, where I currently am now at Cisco working with our emerging technologies team to be working with our open source communities in our emerging technology space. So I love talking about community. I've been speaking on it at events here in this, as I call the fall conference season. And I love talking about building community and then how you can really use communities to be driving project growth as well as product growth. So there you go. That's me.
Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So I have got a list of questions, and I know you've got so much information and knowledge to share on this. So I've got questions. We'll see how it goes. I know we might take a few detours, and I can't wait to bring up questions from the audience as well. So my first question is quite generic, and I dig a bit deeper. So my first question is, how is open source and community related?
Uh, well, I think when open source projects, I think we should narrow it down a little bit more to open source projects because community building is around something, you know, whether it's an open source project or whether it's your friends at the dog park, you know, that meet up every day. And so you're trying to build a group of like-minded people who are interested in a topic and bring them together to gather their ideas and to share information, and help all of us to be better in whatever that topic is. So, you know, at the dog park, what are we feeding our dogs? But within open source, we tend to get together and talk about the projects, not open source as a grand concept, but the projects and how we can help elevate the awareness of our project, or gaining users, or gaining contributors, or making people feel more welcome. I mean, any number of different topics to help our projects be more helpful to people who want to use them.
That's perfect, because that ties into my next question, which is when is the right time to build a community around an open source project? If we take that example, I think that's really relevant for me and the people listening. When's the right time to do it? Like I always say, people should, you know, open source their project from day one. As soon as they've created that repo and it's just got the template README file in it, like make it public, make it open source. So when's the best time to build a community for that open source project?
I think it's when you've built that repo. I mean, that's when you want to start building your community. But that being said, why are you building that community, or what does that community need to look like? I think you need to look at community as you are building out your open source project, but you also need to really define what, quote unquote, building your community is, because it will change at the various stages of your project. So building a community when you very first open source something versus building a community, for example, when I was at CNCF for Kubernetes, two entirely different sort of community building activities.
Very, very true. You're right. Projects do go through those phases, and the community will go through those phases too, as things grow and change. So what would you recommend, I guess, to a lot of people probably have, or I see lots of people in the audience who I know have big projects, and a lot of people have like newer projects that are a bit smaller. I mean, what would you recommend for someone who has, you know, recently created an open source project and looking to build a community around it?
Yeah, I think the first step that we need to do is define our why. And I talk about this at events. You need to define why you want to build community, and it's going to tie back to what your goals are. So if you have a brand new open source project, you know, what's your goal in bringing community together? Is it to get users of the project? Is it to get project feedback? Is it for awareness, brand awareness? And define why you're trying, you know, why you want to build community, what those outcomes are. And when you have those outcomes in your site, when you know what success looks like, then you can start backing into different community building activities. And I do caution, because sometimes we can look at community building and we want our success to be, I want 100 users who are contributing. And that's a great success, but that's a big success, and it's almost not achievable. And you need to kind of break it down into, what would I like to accomplish in the next month or quarter, or versus the next 6 months, and kind of dial it down to what's achievable in an immediate kind of time frame.
That is super true. I mean, we need to be realistic, right? You know, some people say, "Hey, I want to explode overnight," or whatever that means. You know, they want 1,000 stars overnight, or 1,000 new members, or 1,000 contributors. It's not realistic. So I think that's absolutely right. And this is perfect, because it ties into my next question, which is, which are some important metrics to measure, if any?
Well, in the metrics, yeah, I think you absolutely have to be measuring something, right? You have to define some sort of metric and some sort of measure, so that you have an idea if you are actually achieving, what you have set out to do. In the presentations I've been doing this fall, I kind of split the community building efforts based on, I had 3 different examples. And I'll give you an example of one of them is kind of an open source community that the company was acquired, and that open source community and open source projects went to this new company. And as with most acquisitions, it kind of the activities sort of just fell into a maintenance mode. Well, then they figured out that, yeah, we do want to go ahead and build a community around this, but the leadership didn't really know what community building is or what they wanted to get out of it. So the community team came back and said, well, we haven't talked to this community for, a couple years, and our responses on GitHub are slow, if at all. So let's reach out to users and let's get their feedback on why are they using the project? How is it going for them? What kind of features would they like to see? Was it easy to get started, et cetera? So in that case, their metric was so many X number of conversations over the next quarter, and sharing that feedback with the product team. So their metric was tied very specifically to the activity that was bringing value to the organization.
And again, this makes me think of another question. So I'm loving this discussion. I know everyone else is as well. I can see the people requesting to come up on stage. And I will bring you up shortly for your questions. I can't wait. You mentioned, getting feedback from the community. How often should you do that? The reason why I ask is, so for the EddieHub BioDrop project, I put out a questionnaire, and I think it was like 5 or 6, short questions, and we only we had less than 20 people fill it in, and I don't think it was a big enough range, and we could work with the information we got. But how long should we wait until we put another one out? We don't obviously want to, pester people with questionnaires and so forth. Is monthly too much? Every 3 months, every 6 months? What would you recommend?
Boy, that's a great question, Eddie, because surveys are such a funny thing, and I'll be really interested to hear. I see some people I know from the community out here who probably have done surveys. We did surveys with the CNCF. We did an annual cloud native survey. And when I was there, we kicked off the member survey. And, people just don't want to fill them out. And so me being on this side of the fence, wanting people to fill out my surveys, when I get surveys, I'm like, oh, I'm going to totally fill that out, because I know how hard it is for the person seeking information to get people to fill out a survey. So the long form surveys, it's so funny that it's hard to get responses. So I've kind of stepped it back a little bit in terms of, throwing out a quick Twitter poll. And even though I may only get, a handful of answers, it still is data that I can use to combine with my long form survey. And then I've been reaching out one-on-one to talk to people, and people love talking about their use of an open source project. So whether I go to an event and we have that conversation, I kind of ask those same questions, or via the one-on-one conference calls that I've been having. Now, that's not scalable, obviously, but it still is one. I have those 3 methods for data points: the one-on-ones, doing some sort of like quick Twitter polls, and then doing the long form surveys and sending them out. My gut on that cadence is maybe every quarter. But I'd love to hear what other people have had, their experiences with sending out an email and asking people to fill out a survey. And I think, Eddie, kind of coming back to BioDrop, I'm using BioDrop and I love it. I love that I do not have to maintain this stuff on my website. I'm showing it to people. I'm sharing my QR code, and I love using BioDrop. But I've never gone out to GitHub, and I've never gone out to see if there is something I can contribute back for a survey. Just kind of letting you know that, but that's me, right? And so how do you reach a person like me to get my feedback. That's something you have to think.
Yeah, really good point. I think it was before I met you and before I mentioned BioDrop to you. We put the survey out. I did it on Twitter, but I didn't put it on the app itself or any like kind of alert. So that's something we could trial in the future. And I think we might have sent it out with one of our new EddieHub newsletters. So I think it went out to quite a few people. But yes, it wasn't too long, but maybe it was too long. That's probably some feedback I should get. Maybe that should be the last question of the survey, or was this survey too long? And if no one answers that, then I think the answer is yes.
Well, and that's actually a good point, Eddie. This is something that we started also when I was at CNCF. We used to have the really long form annual Cloud Native survey, but we started going into micro surveys on specific topics. So like I'm sure we did one on security, and it would be 10 questions. Bam. And so if you were interested in security in the cloud native community, you would probably go out there and answer those quick 10 questions. So yeah, it's something just quick that people can answer. And it comes back to, you need to know where your audience is getting their information. And which is a whole nother topic that I would love to dig into at some point. But the whole where we're getting information digitally now is so bifurcated. With Twitter, and people hate Twitter, and well, it's actually called X. And have they gone to Mastodon? And Mastodon was too hard. And have they gone to Blue Sky? I mean, like I don't really even know where my audience is getting their information, and so I'm just always listening to try to figure that out and to try to then communicate where they are getting information.
I love that. So many great tips there. Definitely always be listening. It's something I need to get better at. And having more micro surveys, I think, is a brilliant idea. I have a few more questions, but I thought I'd take a break from my questions and bring some of the audience who've been waiting patiently. But before I do that, we have almost 60 people here in the audience, and Kim needs 30 more to get to her next milestone of 3,000 followers on Twitter. So if any of you are enjoying what you're listening to, make sure you go give Kim a follow, and let's get her over that 3,000 milestone today. Okay, so speakers, who I think Chrissy might have requested first. So Chrissy, mic's over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Chrissy. Y'all might have seen me in open source Twitter spaces. I'm an open source enthusiast, love technical writing, and having fun. Now that the introduction is done, I just want to say that what I've been doing to promote my community, which is basically called Queens of Open Source, I started it to address the lack of visibility that women and non-binary people in the community seem to face. So I created that squad on daily.dev. If you want to join, I pinned my tweet to the Jumbotron. I digress. What I've been doing to promote this community is to post about it on X or talk about it on Twitter Spaces. So things like that are quite helpful. And I also have been learning to be a little bit patient as well, because building a community is not something that happens overnight. You just have to take your time with it and keep persisting. So, yeah.
Yeah, Chrissy, great point. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. And yeah, we all want instant gratification. And why isn't it happening? And being persistent and going step by step, right? Trying different things, doing maybe sharing some really great content. I saw your tweet, your X post or whatever, calling them now, apologies. Just kind of taking that step by step, and can I get people to read my content? Can I, are people watching my videos? we actually, with our community building efforts, this is something that I started with one of my Linux Foundation projects, is like joining the community and how you can get involved. And I broke it down into multiple steps. And I personally broke it down into 5 steps. And the first step is, hey, you're new to the community. Join our Slack workspace and follow us on Twitter. Okay, you want to do more with the community? Well, here's a bunch of really great content that you can go out and read and learn more about the project or cloud native or whatever the technology is. And you want to contribute and be a user? Well, here's how you can download the project and use it, for example. Up to level 5 is you can be a maintainer of the open source project. So I broke it down into very specific activities people can do to get more involved in the community, and then they can choose how involved they may want to be, and where they're comfortable, and what maybe they would like to do and what would be good for them.
I think you're right. People have different commitments to the project. That could be because they're working on multiple projects. It could be because, they've just changed jobs, or they've, just had a baby, or whatever it is. And so you're right. I think people want to be involved, but their involvement could change over time as well, which I think is something we need to be aware of. I mean, in the BioDot project, we have, for maintainers, we have onboarding, but we also have offboarding. Which has been super helpful, because people want to know how to become a maintainer, but then they might no longer want to be a maintainer for whatever reason. They haven't got the time. They've decided to focus their time and energy on a different project, which is absolutely fine. But sometimes they're too polite to say anything, and so they stay on there, but then they're no longer active. I think it's better that they offboard and say, hey, look, I haven't got time for this anymore, or I want to change technologies or projects or whatever it is. And you have that conversation, because then to bring someone else on as well. So it's such a interesting discussion.
Yeah, and Eddie, I'm kind of wondering with your offboarding. So I know for me that if I volunteer to do something and then I don't have time, I feel really guilty. I'm like, oh my God, they were kind of counting on me. Do you find that with your offboarding, it just helps take that pressure off that individual who maybe have said at one point, yes, I love this, I want to help with this, I want to do this, but now they can offboard and focus their efforts where it's more important to them, where it's more beneficial for them, and kind of pull that guilt away? I'm seeing 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think, not talking about things is worse, because then no one knows where they stand. And some people are trying to be, too polite, which then just hinders progress and makes everyone have this cognitive load where they're thinking about something that they don't want to think about anymore for whatever reason. So yeah, our offboarding, I don't think it's been read too much. So we probably have some improvements to make to it, but we've definitely got a starting point there. And we have had a couple of people in the past just say, love being a maintainer, but I haven't got time anymore. I've changed jobs. I just want to focus on my job, or, I've discovered another project. And that's fine. They can always come back. I mean, the door's always open. And I think it's important to have that conversation, because that then prompts us to say, well, okay, let's find somebody else to fill that gap. So yeah, I think it's interesting. It's important to have those conversations. Next up, we have Priyanka. Priyanka, thank you so much for waiting. I think you requested to come on stage right from the beginning. So the mic is all yours.
Thank you so much. It is amazing to be amongst all the open source enthusiasts here. And hey, I just followed Kim, so everybody do that. So Kim could make 3K today. It's just so amazing to, have been working with a lot of girl students to bring the adoption of open source through blockchain and digital ledgers. So just wanted to, talk a little bit about that. Won't take much time. So we've been doing this interesting experiment on grassroots innovation with digital ledgers, and there's been like a horde of applications that we actually got across India to build on open source. So I think somewhere it's about finding that passion of what you want to build, and how to build in public. And all these amazing girls that we got into the cohort, we had like a 3-month aggressive smart contract programming, and all of the projects are on GitHub now. Would love to encourage all of you to go take a look. Probably I'll just pin the project list somewhere here. So we did everything from bringing more transparency to the supply chain for farmers, to get profitability, to bringing more transparency through digital ledgers, in academic ways, building badges, building digital badges for students and giving them more incentives to get into the workforce. So it was quite a challenging yet gratifying 3 months. So definitely would love to help anybody who's trying to come to open source. Thanks for the time.
Awesome, great to hear getting more people into open source, especially minorities as well. That sounds super exciting. I'll have to check out those projects on GitHub. So thank you very much for letting us know. I saw you commented in the thread for the Twitter space. Do add some links in another comment. Make it easier for everyone to see. I'm gonna pass the mic over to this person, and I haven't said their name yet because Graham knows who it is. They always add so much value. I really enjoy chatting with them, but I always struggle with their name. So, Mirinal, I pronounced it so wrong. Please correct me again.
You get it right, Eddie. It sounds great. Thank you for letting me in. Lovely discussion. Really enjoying listening to everyone here. Thank you, Kim, for the insights. Very insightful. I just wanted to quickly share a couple of thoughts from that conversation that came to mind. One around kind of feedback. I mentioned this in the Twitter discussion below, but one of the things we've been trying on our project Occam, which enables end-to-end encrypted communication for different applications, is creating open issues to gather feedback. And it's been working. We've had a few people record videos and send them to us in response to the issues. We consider them as valid contributions, so we have whoever gives us this feedback add them to our contributors list, acknowledge them in our releases, etc. And it's been working well. To increase discoverability of these issues, we try to pin them at the top of our issues page. So that's an interesting thing I've been trying recently, and it seems to be working. So other people, if you want to try. And the other part of this discussion around thinking about how to kind of help people through the journey. I really like the orbit model. I also linked that in the chat. It's an interesting way to kind of think about community building, and I learned a lot from it early on when we were starting, because it kind of describes this notion of thinking about orbits around your project, where certain people become contributors and are highly engaged, but there are other people who only participate a little bit from time to time, and you can kind of think about each orbit, people in each orbit and their individual journey. So it's a good model to kind of think about how people around your project might be participating and how you could help them continue to do whatever they're interested in doing. So those were a couple of quick thoughts. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you so much. Actually, that comes to my next question, which I had, I was going to say for later, but now you've brought it up. I'd love to hear Kim's thoughts on this, which is, what are your thoughts on these tools in terms of Orbit? And there was another one that was mentioned at DevRelCon, one of the sponsors.
Common Room.
Common Room, yes. Thank you so much. So yeah, Kim, what are your thoughts on these tools?
Yeah, I've been Josh Gross from Common Room is a buddy of mine, and he's been trying to get Common Room in at Cisco where I work. But we have a subscription to Orbit right now, and I'm on the fence on this. I don't know if I'm using them right, but I do find them helpful to identify people who are active in our community within a specific platform such as GitHub. Like for me, reaching out to our users in GitHub, I'm finding Orbit to be very helpful in identifying people that are opening PRs. So I'm not digging through GitHub, I'm just going out to the tool. So I'm still in the learning phase of that. Now, that being said, there's another Twitter space that Nikita and I do on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time in the US, Pacific time US. And next week, we're going to have Josh Gross from Common Room, and we're going to have Geeky Dawn Girl, who is the data scientist for the Linux Foundation Chaos Project. So we're going to have them on that Twitter space talking about metrics and tools, because there's so much to learn there. I need to learn more there. So I kind of want to turn the question around to others. Like, what have you found that's helpful for really understanding community health?
Before anyone answers that, Kim, do you have a link to that event you mentioned? Could you reply to the thread or pin it to the top? Whatever's easiest. It'd be great. Thank you so much.
Let me find that, and I will add that in there. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I want to say this so wrong. Please correct me on how to pronounce your name. It's been a while since we've done Twitter Spaces together. Miranol, tell me how to pronounce your name, please.
You're doing perfectly fine. I say it Miranol, but any pronunciation is fine. Don't worry about it. I just wanted to add a very, very quick thought around my experience with Orbit. We've been using it now, I think, for like 3 years or so. And the biggest value I get from it is it's helpful in the biggest value I get from it is it's helpful in making sure I don't miss, right? So it's aggregating and looking at all the activity in our GitHub, and you can see like a feed of anyone interacting. So it's a good way to track, who's engaging, where are they engaging, what questions are they asking, and are we taking too long to respond, or are we letting them kind of wait on feedback on a PR so they get disinterested or things like that. So just it's a good way to kind of keep a overview of who's doing what, and then make sure you engage and respond quickly. So that value from Orbit's been pretty helpful.
I think I need to look at it again. I looked at it Orbit a long time ago, and I haven't looked at it since. So I think I do need to have a look and see what it can do to help. Okay, I've seen some hands go up. Graham, over to you, and then we'll head to Krish afterwards.
Thanks, Eddie. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, all you beautiful people, fellow monsters. To Kim's question, I love the question. I'm very opinionated on this one as well. The biggest factor for community health, in my opinion, is number of people communicating versus number of people in the community. So if you've got 5,000 people in a community and only 5 of them are communicating, that community is not doing well. If you've got 50 people and 10 of them are communicating, that community is doing very well. And I think that seems to be a factor, at least being quite specific about, say, Discord communities. If you see the drop-off where the numbers keep going up but the conversation keeps going down, then that community is on its way out a lot of the time. And then the only other factor within that is also quality of the discussion. If you're building a community with a purpose, is the discussion on topic 25%, 30% of the time and above? If everybody's just sharing memes the whole time and just joking about and there's absolutely nothing around the topic, then yes, you've built a community, but you've built a community of people who just want to chill out together, not a community with purpose. So those are the two for me. And in terms of measuring it, you can just measure how often people interact. It's a bit of a blunt metric, but it works. And the other one is you can always do some sentiment analysis if you're willing to fork out a little bit of money for a service that helps you do that. So those are my thoughts on that one. And yeah, great to see you on stage, Kim, and nice to see you, Eddie, and everybody else.
Hey, Graham. Yeah, Eddie, if I can jump in, I had a couple follow-up. Thank you for the sentiment analysis, because I was trying to figure out like how you're measuring the quality of your conversations. And I guess you're right. You're going to have to kind of fork out something so you can do a sentiment analysis and see what people are, have kind of an AI bot out there, AI tool out there looking at what people are saying and the quality of that. Did I get that correct on how you're measuring the quality of the conversation?
Yeah, so look, the last time I had to do any sentiment analysis, AI was not really an option. They called it AI, but it was just algorithms. But AI's now got to the stage. I've not had a look, but I imagine there's loads of services now that are significantly better than the way that we used to do sentiment analysis, that would give you a very good feel for the conversation. And you can probably even adjust it to actually say, hey, how often is this particular topic mentioned in passing, so you can get a feel for how on track the community is. But yeah, the old school way was, it used to be just an algorithm where we counted usage of words versus total words and all sorts of funny things like that. So that was the old school way of doing it.
Okay. And I totally agree. It's the number of people communicating in your community that you should be measuring. But I will caveat that, like, I know that our community is young and we have the same 5 people talking. So measuring how many people are talking in the community is a good measure, but I know that I need to grow that. And if I don't know how many of you know or know of Jono Bacon, he has a stat or a calculation that he uses called daily active users divided by monthly active users. And it is a metric that I've used in past organizations to kind of measure like how many people in the community are actually having a conversation, and is that number going up or down as a measure for community health. So I encourage you to look at that metric as a potential for measurement in your communities.
That's a really interesting metric. I'm trying to make notes as we go along of things I want to try and see. I mean, one thing that we definitely don't do in EddieHub, and this is a conscious decision, is we don't have a random channel and we don't have like a meme channel, because I'd rather there be less activity, less conversation about kind of chilling time, as Graham calls it, but more focused on quality, more focused on open source. And okay, yes, we talk about public speaking and we give each other help on CFPs and other things if someone's submitting a talk and so forth. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Kim? And then I'll part afterwards. We'll go to Krish.
My thoughts on what? And helping your community with CFPs?
No, sorry. Am I too strict in not having a meme channel and a random channel? I think it's because I don't want too many notifications that are off topic, let's say. So I specifically don't have those channels in EddieHub. I know people ask for them all the time, to have a random channel where people can put memes and stuff. I just find memes can sometimes be funny for one person and offensive to another.
Yeah, there's definitely that potential with memes. So yes, yeah. And I'm sorry. What is your question?
Am I missing an opportunity, I suppose, for being so strict and not having a random channel, I guess?
Well, I think that's kind of a personal, that will tend to be really a personal decision for people, for your community and the people that are in your community. I don't think that there is one answer to say whether we want to allow memes or emojis or whatever, or, a general channel in your Slack workspace for people to just talk about anything. It's very community and organization specific. So I can't, I think you have to look at who's in your community and who's contributing in the community and what is kind of their personality and, how do they feel about being open versus being private? And then you can determine what kind of tools or communication options you want to open up for them.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic over to Krish. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. Over to you. And while you're speaking, I'm going to bring some more people up onto stage.
Thank you for handing over the mic, Eddie. And Hello to all the amazing, wonderful speakers. Hi, I just wanted to answer Kim's question about Orbit and the other tools. So I actually have recently joined the CNCF community and hoping to go delve into it and learn a little bit of DevOps as well. I want to do that. So I was looking at the documentation, and in the documentation for communities, they did mention two tools, and one of them was Orbit. I have used Orbit a lot, and I use it. I do not maintain a lot of communities, but in the communities I do use Orbit. Plus, I even use it for my personal handles to maintain everything at one place, right? I do that as well. I'm treating my personal handles as a community. So I really love that. And on top of that, I wanted to add to what Graham said. So whatever Graham said, all of these statistics, if you are maintaining a Discord community, are available on the Discord developer portal under the server statistics. So you can go ahead and all of these insights along with the demographics, as Kim mentioned, are going to be there, so you can plan and manage your community better if it's on Discord. And you can also see how many people are retaining in the server to communicate. If 100 people join, how many people are still communicating? That is also a statistic that they give you for you to manage your community. Plus, I have a question: how often should you tag everyone in a server? Because at EddieHub we do that literally 0 times in a year. I have never had a ping from EddieHub since like 2 years, right? And yeah, I had some before 2 years, but we have never had some. And what I have noticed is that when we did have those, whenever at everyone was pinged, when Eddie had the Me6 bot set up to get the YouTube videos rolling in, we used to receive a lot of engagement when the at everyone ping happened, right? And it was generally useful talks, right? Useful networking. But after we stopped doing the at everyone ping, the community has become smaller, a little bit smaller and more niche, and there are not that much activity, I would say.
Sorry, I had a Twitter malfunction just then. Okay, I'm back. Uh, that's a really good point. We don't use the at everybody at all anymore. I mean, I might very rarely use it, but I used to use it before. You're right. Every time I posted a video, we had a YouTube channel, and then people used to say, after getting some feedback, so going back to our previous discussion earlier with Kim about kind of getting feedback from people. Um, People were muting that channel or the server because they didn't want the notification for every YouTube video, because they've got YouTube notifications and that's managed somewhere else. So we stopped all of that, and it has got quieter, the server, but I feel the quality of the conversation has increased, as in people sharing their open source project or talking about the challenges they've got in running a project or contributing to a project. So in my opinion, it's got better, but that's just my opinion, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. Okay, so Graham hand's gone down. Christian's hand's gone down. Okay, well, it looks like they want to start a new conversation, new topic. But before we do that, we'll head over to Nikita, who has their hand up on a new topic, and then we'll come back to others who have a new topic as well. Nikita, the mic's over to you.
Yeah, hi to everybody, and big shout out to Christy. Sorry, Chrissy. She invited me to the space. I would have totally missed it. So thank you. It's good to have friends. So the question was, how do we check if community is healthy, if I understand correctly? Which is much easier to answer comparing to how do you create a healthy community. So I think because we are all open source, then for me, it will be an easy two-stage process. First, I'll go to the GitHub or open source project you are creating, because I will check if the results are there. So if the results are there, let's say I will go to Biodrop and I will see that there are consistently contributions and there are many forks and stars. Okay, so the results are there. Now my question is, at what cost? So now I'm interested, how do the people talk in the community? and how do they welcome the newcomers, and how do they overcome problems. So, for example, Biodrop is quite healthy, and the way I know it, there are two things. First of all, we never speak about, like, it's not used as a way to promote, let's say, Eddie. So you can see periodical pictures of Eddie on vacation on other channels, but you will never see it's like, oh, I created that, I created that. No, it's always our community created something. And then I also see how Biodrop treats people who contribute to it. So I personally got some. I personally got a soft toy, and I think I'll get some stickers. And I was not even like a real part of the community. All I was doing, I was honestly telling to people all around me that that's the best thing which you can use at all the conferences. It's free and it's empowering and it connects people. So that's how you see quality community, I would say.
Thank you so much, Nikita. Yes, you're such a big advocate of Biodrop, and that shows that it's not just about code. I think people focus too much on, to be part of an open source project, to be part of the community, you've got to be chatting with everyone every day. You've got to be committing code, and to be honest, that's just one part of it. There are other parts. There is the whole kind of almost like, community or project ambassador. There is no official title. We don't have that, not yet anyway. It's something we might do one day, but you're doing it already. And we even have a docs page where people can add their content that they create on it. So, for example, I think someone created a pull request, an issue in a pull request last week for Kim's YouTube video, to add it to that docs page. So it's kind of like a two-way street. But I'm gonna kind of pass the mic to Kim, and if you have any thoughts to share on that subject.
Wow, no, I'm still in awe that someone wanted to put my promote my YouTube video for Biodrop. Thank you. Gosh, I'm humbled and in awe of that. God, there are a lot of topics here. You talked about ambassador. Ambassador programs are great for recognizing people when people are spending their time working on an open source, working in an open source community. They're a great program to help recognize them, which is, if that is what they are also looking for that recognition. Because a lot of people, as any of us community members in open source, we contribute back however we can contribute back, whether it's marketing or events or documentation or code. We do that because that's something that's a passion that we have, and people do it one, because maybe they really want to see the community succeed, or maybe they are looking for getting a little more recognition in the open source space, or maybe they contribute because they just really believe in the product and they love working on it, or the project and they love working on it. So providing that recognition back in a form of how somebody, what they might want to get out of their contribution is always a good thing to think about in a community. I don't even know if that was the question, but that's where my head went.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. It's great to hear your thoughts. And Nikita supports so many projects. I think it's absolutely awesome. Nikita goes to so many events in London, especially, and is always supporting loads of projects and communities. I think it's great. Okay, Graham, is it a new subject? Because if it is, I want to pass to Krish first. If it's on the same topic, I'll pass the mic to you.
It's circling back to the how often should you ping.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I've just made this up. I've pulled this out of my rear end, but it sounds logical. So here you go. Here's a framework for you. If you've got less than 100 people on your server, ping them as often as you think, because odds are they're going to be fans and friends. So, someone will say something if you're annoying them. 100 to 1,000 people, no more than 5 times a week. And if you've got more than 1,000 people, no more than twice a week. And make sure when you ping everybody that it's going to appeal to at least 30% of your audience. There you go. I just made that up, but it sounds really, really legitimate. So that can become your new rule.
I like that's a good starting point. What I would recommend is putting that in an open source file, and so therefore other people can try it, maybe feedback, and maybe tweak the kind of the what's it called, the gears and the knobs and the adjusters as the numbers change. So and as they try it out. But Graham, that's a great. It's always good to have a starting point. We've got to start somewhere. So thank you so much. Nikita, is it on the same topic or is it a new topic?
No, it was a new topic. Sorry.
Okay, we'll come back to you in a minute. We'll go Krish, and then we'll go Jordana, and then we'll come back to you. So, Krish, over to you.
Okay, I have a new topic myself, Eddie, first of all. Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine. You've been waiting the longest for the new topic, so we'll start a new one. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I, just wanted to give a shout out to BioDrop, right? We've been talking about, the BioDrop community a lot. But I'm like, nobody mentioned this, that we have regular calls where people share their feedbacks, right? We have them regularly, on our Discord server. We have regular GitHub discussions. I remember there was a GitHub discussion with like about 100 people involved, and we were looking for feedback on a new logo. And we did not use a single one of those logos. So that is separate. But we had about 100 people in a GitHub discussion just giving us feedback about logos. We had, I think about 25 people or something talking about, the new name BioDrop, right? And I was like, I totally forgot about it because there are so many, feedback discussions. And then someday I went back to there and I was like, I suggested the Twitter username BioDrop HQ for this. And I forgot that BioDrop was a consideration. So we have so many, feedback threads and discussions going on, our EddieHub, the GitHub, right? I think there is even a category for feedbacks over there. We have regular calls. There is one, I think, there's one on the 30th, right? Eddie, there's a maintainer call on the 30th, right?
Yes, there's a maintainers call coming up, and then we're going to organise more calls to collaborate with the community over Hacktoberfest. I don't know why I chose to move house and countries in the busiest month of the year, which is October. So I will be out for like 2 days as I drive from London to Portugal. But yes, we need to organise those. We have one coming up this weekend, and then we'll organise some for next week. You're right, we do get a lot of amazing support and feedback from the community, and that's always super, super cool. So thank you so much, Krish, for mentioning that.
And that's not even an Eddie. You are just giving less things from the EddieHub side. We also host the community calls regularly, which I think every community should do. If you're not hosting a community call at least once in like 2-3 months, then your community is gonna go dead very soon, because if you're not even doing that, then there is just no voice interaction in your community. So we do that as well, where we get often a lot of feedback. And I have been nudging Eddie to start the public speaking calls again, but that's not possible right now, I think. And do not worry, Eddie, for the 2 days. We'll handle it. It's just gonna be like a few thousand PRs, 2 days, no big thing.
Krish is absolutely right. The community do handle everything. They're amazing. Thank you so much, Krish. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic over. Before I do, Kim just needs 12 more to get to 3,000. I think my maths is correct. Someone double check it. So 12 more followers. Everyone, if you're enjoying the conversation and you want to follow more of Kim's amazing content, and Kim has recently started a YouTube channel as well, you'll find all her content on her BioDrop link, but go drop her a follow. Right, we'll pass the mic over to Jordana. Hopefully I pronounced your name right.
You have things. I'm going to just go back to the topic of community, basically, and give the reminder of like code of conduct. And what you said about having these meme channels and offending people, that kind of stuff. The thing is, I absolutely agree that if it's not helpful or it might not work, and if you don't have a proper code of conduct in place, these things can spiral out of control very quickly. But also remember that a code of conduct is only as good as its enforcement. So if you don't have the means to have that code of conduct enforcement, then it might be better to not have those channels. And having rules and community expectations around, keeping channels on topic, and making sure, that people are able to kind of connect with each other. So that's the only thing that, you know, you might be missing, not having certain channels like random or off-topic discussions, is you might not have your community engaging with each other as much as they could be. But again, the code of conduct is very important on that, in my opinion.
I love that. Thank you so much for mentioning that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, having a code of conduct and enforcing it is just so important. And we've gone one step further in EddieHub. We actually have something called EddieBot, which we created 2-3 years ago, which if non-inclusive language or anything polarizing or anything like that from a library, we didn't write the conditions, but we implemented it into a bot. It doesn't take any action. It just gives someone a kind of a prompt and say, you know, you used "hey guys," maybe use "folks" or "friends." It's more inclusive. And once they update their message, then the warning goes away. So it doesn't take any action. But yes. Enforcing the code of conduct. So that's where I guess mods come in, which I think is super important, because, you know, with people joining from all around the world and so forth, I think we've got to add a few more mods as well to cover a few more time zones on EddieHub, as well as some of the current mods are you know, busy with new jobs and so forth. But yes, Jordana, thank you so much for mentioning that. It's such an important topic. Around that. I mean, Kim, is there anything else you think that someone should add or do around, you know, making it a safe place? And then we were talking about this at the CIVO conference when we were sitting outside enjoying the London sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, Jordana is right. I mean, you write a code of conduct and you put it out there, but you need to have the resources to enforce it. And yeah, coming from the Linux Foundation and CNCF, I mean, you know, you get involved in those conversations when you have people out there saying things or doing things that that maybe somebody doesn't feel safe, and I think we also need to ally with each other, so that, especially at events, that if we're seeing an activity or seeing somebody who may appear distressed, you know, be their ally and report it or help them or something. So yeah, feeling safe in communities is a really wide open. It's hard. It's hard work, and because people are people, and there's some not very nice people out there.
True. I think I've been fortunate enough to, you know, mostly see in the tech community, everyone's super supportive, and you know, super helpful and want to help each other. But you're right, there are the odd few bad apples, and yeah, it's important to support those people or to call something out if it doesn't look right. I completely agree. Graham, over to you, and then we'll head over to Chris.
Yes, I felt called out there as the bad actor, the original bad apple, but don't worry about it. I'm still here. I have a question, if I may, that I've been holding on to for a while. How do you turn lurkers into lecturers? By which I mean, how do you encourage the people who are just passively in the community and not contributing to contribute? Because we obviously said earlier that conversation is one of the key parts of a community and participation. So how do you get those shy people or the ones that aren't quite sure how to participate to start participating to help the community grow stronger?
You bribe them with food. No, actually, I happen to have this file open on my desk. I don't even know why. You know, how to convert lurkers. It's really, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And so I'm going to go read from, this is something I wrote. I don't even know how old this file is or why I even have it open on my desktop. But a couple of the techniques I had for quote unquote converting a lurker to a user is one, start creating smaller groups. Like, you can, if you have a project, you can create a group that maybe just focuses on one technology point or focuses on one community activity, such as a newsletter or an event. But create the smaller groups, because a lot of times people don't want to get involved because it's too big and it's too scary and will they accept me? But if you create some smaller groups, sometimes people will see, oh, I'm really interested in that, and it's only 6 people. 6 people are not as scary as 106. So creating smaller groups is helpful there. Let me see. I'm kind of reading through my old notes here. I hadn't read these for a long time. But one other one, without reading I might have to turn this into a blog. But the other way is kind of reach out to people one-on-one. And I think a lot of times in communities, what happens is we keep talking to the people we know, or people, and those people tend to look or be more like us. So I know that I am guilty of this. I tend to only talk with community people that are American, right? Because that is my little universe right here. And I push myself to reach out and look for others, such as on the space. I've really met some amazing people doing these spaces, but I push myself to reach out and look for others that maybe are not in my little bios, in my little sphere of who I know, and to get to know them, and then maybe invite them in if that is what they want to do. So with your lurkers, especially if you've identified, where I've identified maybe a lurker that I know is really good at something or would be really valuable to the community, kind of reach out and start just getting to know them, getting to network with them, and finding out then if they would be comfortable, joining in the community and bringing their expertise in this, in whatever way they feel comfortable.
I really love that. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm making notes, especially how you said kind of make kind of like micro, I don't know what the word is, but like micro groups so people can look after a certain area, like you said, the newsletter or something else, and they'll feel more empowered, and it's less scary. I absolutely love that. And then reaching out to people, such a good idea. So thank you so much for that. I'm definitely going to make some changes over the next few weeks and some improvements. Okay. Lots of hands gone up, and we haven't got too much time left on the clock. I do have a pairing session in EddieHub. I forgot to add it to the EddieHub event, so sorry everyone. We're going to be doing some DevOps with BioDrop and Sentry and logging and stuff. But anyway, we'll talk about that later on. Okay, so Jordana, is it on the same topic, or was it a new topic? And same question to Nikita as well.
Same topic for me.
Okay, yeah, over to you then, Jordana.
Thanks. One of the things that, just like Kim said, smaller groups, but also smaller projects with clear tasks helps a lot. When people know what's expected from them, how long things might take, who's working on it with them, kind of alleviates some of the stress of getting sucked into the weeds, getting sucked into something that you might not have the time or space available to do. Is also a great way of kind of making sure that, you can get more volunteers working. And I know, like, for example, the Drupal and WordPress communities have first-time speaker workshops available for people to kind of get that, get some of the training, get motivated, even coming up with topics. And they kind of create little cohorts where people are able to kind of support each other as well.
I love that. Okay, I've got to make a note of that as well while the next person is speaking. That is brilliant. You're absolutely right. I like the idea of kind of smaller cohorts. People can support each other, learn together, and kind of gain the first time whatever it is, public speaking or first time contributors. I think that's great. Nikita, is it a new topic or same topic?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm lost with what current topic is. If it's connecting, is it connecting communities, or is it about protecting communities from flood and misbehavior?
Okay, go ahead. It seems kind of around the same sort of area. So over to you.
So yeah, regarding regarding protecting people from and communities from bad behavior, like wrong smiles and so on. Although, like, technically nothing can be wrong, but it's the context and it's how people use it. I mean, you can build a house with a hammer and you can kill somebody. The hammer is still the hammer. But I think it's not possible to fully protect anything because some people are, well, they're quite smart and their intentions are not good. But it's very worth it to put some effort. I did lots of effort towards protecting your communities. At least you can cut out 90% of bad stuff happening. And regarding, I think Kim mentioned something very important, is that we often don't know people from different groups which are diverse comparing to us. So to people in this space and to all of us, our biggest role is connecting our communities as I see it. Because of us, we can actually tell that, look, Kim, there's Eddie, and look, there's, let's say, Bilal Khan in Pakistan. And now they're connected. And through them, we connect countries. And that's important. And then you see amazing stuff getting created. Yeah, and yeah, that's it. I also had a really good question from Ego, but I'm not sure if you have time now. So maybe it's for the next space.
We'll come back to it. Keep in mind the question. I'd love to also cover Graham, Krish, and Bilal, and then we'll come back to you on that question. So Graham, you had your hand up earlier. Is it still up or has it disappeared?
I put it down because I thought you were coming to an end and a wrap up, but yeah, very, very quick then. It's not even a question, it's just more of a statement. People who run Discord communities, here's a tip for you. If you have like a call or anything like that, welcome people to the room in the chat or tell them what it's about. I've had a lot of experiences lately that are weird as hell, where you join a call and like you've no idea what is going on. And the best one, I won't name the company, but they rhyme with your face. They were doing like a call that were 25 people in it, and everyone was quiet. Nobody was talking, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. I'm sat there, everybody's got the cameras on, nobody's talking. Basically, they were doing like a co-working session thing, but without that bit of instruction when I joined the channel, I was sat there going, do I say hello? Do I not say hello? I just sat there for 10 minutes in a silent room, looking at people doing nothing, and it was very weird. So make sure that you communicate and over-communicate what's going on in any event. If you have moderators, the ideal thing would be to have the moderators watching the room, and then every once in a while just ping something up, or better yet, get a bot to do it that says, hey, this is what we're up to, this is what we've already covered, etc. That will massively boost the engagement, because if you can get people into calls and actually involved, then you've got them into your community hook, line, and sinker. And they will probably stick around for a long time, way more than if they're just chatting or sending memes.
Graham, you bring up a good point. I think we need to have a dedicated Twitter space on communication, because when I've used people from Upwork before, and you know, I try a few different people, and I don't continue working with some and continue working with others, and they say, oh, you know, why didn't you continue working with me? I can see the job's still open. I said, well, your code's great, but your communication is terrible. I don't know what you're doing when. I don't know, and I just suddenly get a PR with loads of changes. And I say, well, the other person might not be as a good coder as you, but they communicate so much better. I know kind of if they're stuck on something, I know what they're working on. I know where they are, so I can fit in other work, kind of, you know, around it, because all these kind of jigsaw pieces and of the puzzle need to fit together. And so, yeah, communication is so important. I think a dedicated Twitter space on that can cover, you know, freelancing, open source, just all that stuff all kind of fits in. So yes, I mustn't forget that one. So thank you. Chris, you had your hand up before. Over to you.
To me. Hi, Eddie. Sorry, the question was already asked by Graham, because I'm running as well a very tiny community. I just have 1,000 GitHub stars on Lost Pixel at the moment, and the problem that I'm facing is that We have a Discord channel with more than 70 members. We have issues, PRs, discussions on GitHub, a direct chat on the website, and all those channels. And it's difficult for us to manage because there are so many different things coming in. So what I heard before is Orbit. I will look into that. Maybe it's an interesting option. But the other question was as well, how do we get people to work with them together, with each other together, where we don't have to be just in one-on-one discussions with everyone, but how do we get them to talk to each other and help each other out, because they're most of the time solving the same issues. And yeah, I was trying to listen and understand if there's something that we can do to help them get started, basically, because yeah, everybody feels awkward in the beginning, and yeah, I guess that's why it's difficult. Yep, that was my question, but Graham took it.
Thanks, Chris. You actually gave me another idea, so I appreciate you talking through it again. You're right, lots of people, I mean, congratulations on the 1,000 stars on your project. And you gave me an idea that we should do a Twitter space and or a live stream on shouting out some people's projects that they're going to be, available for Hacktoberfest. I think that'd be a really good idea. Maybe a live stream and or a Twitter space could be quite good. So people share your thoughts and ideas of how we can do it. I don't think there's this is just food for thought. I don't think there's a minimum amount of stars needed for people to get a shout out, but the project needs to be active, in the recent months and so forth. I think that's more important than how many stars it's got and stuff like that. So yeah, I made a note of that as well, so I don't forget. But please send over your thoughts. Okay, so Bilal, Mike, over to you.
Hello, Eddie. How are you and all the people that are present in this space? So first of all, I don't have any specific question, but I just want to say that what is the one benefit of the community, of joining the community and getting help from them. And I'm the one example that is speaking to you. And I just went through a surgery, and I just asked for, I had no money, I'm jobless, and I just asked for people that, hey, if you really want to help me, it's an emergency and I need your help. So people really helped me. I was not expecting that much money that they will give me for the surgery. I just got a lot of donations from people around the world, and it's just about the community and open source and the things that we are doing, all the people for the community. So I'm really blessed that I have joined this community and being a part of this awesome people and around the world. It's really a blessing for me. So yeah, thank you all of you, and yeah, it's really appreciated. So if you allow me, I have one question, or maybe you can put lights on it, maybe or not. I saw many projects that were not having the local machine environment in which you can run it locally. So I saw many projects that were not having this kind of setup, although they were having the contributing guard and the what you can say, the different things, the different files relevant to the community. But most of the things that the developers require, like having a setup for the project to run it locally, this thing is important for especially for the developers to read it or to find it. So yeah, I found this thing missing in many projects, in many big projects of the CNCF also, and I was not expecting that. So can you just put some lights on it, or yeah? So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bilal. I'm glad you're doing better. And you're right, the community really comes together and really supports each other, especially for people who are already putting themselves out there in the community. I mean, you create so many YouTube videos, and you're putting out so much content that you're known, and people do like to give back. Actually, I have a question for Kim, following on from that, which is, what are your thoughts on a lot of projects don't have good documentation, and people seem to want to contribute code over docs. What are your thoughts on kind of, I don't know, making docs more exciting? Is that the right word?
Oh my gosh, that's like something everybody wants, is how do we make our docs better? Yeah, and I almost every project, nobody wants to write docs, and finding a good doc writer is super hard. What we have done for the open source projects that we are primary, that we're really investing in, is we made we made an investment and hired doc writers to improve that experience. So we have 2 new writers on staff that are writing how to get started, how to do whatever it is, everything you want to do with the open source project. And myself on the other end is talking to users and saying, hey, how was your experience? How was your experience getting started, and bringing that feedback back to our doc writers. Other than that, anybody else have good luck and experience in having people contribute to documentation?
I mean, the one thing that I like to say and do, which has worked out pretty good, is when someone wants to get started. I mean, Graham's had this 100 times, so he's probably going to laugh now. But when someone wants to get started with one of our projects, specifically the biodocs, I'm working on that full time, and they say, "Oh, can you tell me a bit more about it? Tell me how to get started." I actually say, "No. Can you tell me what the project's about? Can you tell me how to get started? And if you can't, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with our project. But with your help, we can make it better, because they've got that fresh perspective. And once they're onboarded and understand the project, it's very hard for them, or for anyone who's onboarded, to actually improve the onboarding docs, because they've already kind of got an understanding of the project. And that's why I love it when new people come to the project, because we can make that improvement. I think, being new to a project, people always see that as a disadvantage, but I see it as an advantage, because they can ask questions and say, well, this doesn't make sense, or there seems to be a step missing here. You've made an assumption, which happens a lot. Like most projects, take JavaScript, for example, most projects say quick start, step 1, clone the project, step 2, npm install. And then when people follow those commands, it kind of breaks and says package JSON not found. It's because they didn't have a step kind of 1B, navigate into the directory that just got created. And, for some people that's obvious, and for others it's not. And we shouldn't make any assumptions even if someone knows how to do it, they might just follow it blindly. I know I've done that many times. Why is this not working? It takes me a minute to think about it and go, I didn't navigate into the directory. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of thought about, as I was trying BioDrop, I should probably give you a little feedback on, but then I thought, well, actually, I was thinking of giving you feedback when I was first setting up BioDrop, because I was having trouble and I couldn't figure out why I was having trouble. And then once I figured it out, I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. Of course, that's what you were looking for in that. And frankly, that's why I didn't come back to you and say, I was really having trouble doing these couple things, because I'm afraid, because it was so obvious once I figured it out, that I'm afraid to share it with you. And you're such an open person, and you're such a generous and kind person. Like, why would I think that you would come back and say, Kim, you're stupid? I know I'm kind of rambling there. How do you get people? I don't know. How do you get people to get over their own fear of contributing?
Kim, I need to know what that is. We won't discuss it now, because we are running short on time, but I need to know what it is. Like, now I'm thinking, oh my God, we have got some better onboarding kind of wizards coming out this week. So hopefully that will help. But yeah, before we continue working on that any further, I'd love to hear that feedback. So
I will share it with you.
Yeah, please, if you want to call or you want to just DM me, whatever's easiest for you, I would really appreciate that that feedback. So yes, I am friendly, even though in all my photos I'm screaming. I promise everyone I'm friendly, and I'm more than happy to geek out everyone. Okay, I see lots of hands have gone up. I didn't see the order it went in. Did anyone see which order they went in? And then I do have to end in about 5 minutes, and I want to have Kim to do a kind of closing note, share some final tips and so forth. So we've got a few minutes to go. Chris, go ahead.
I'll make it super short. First thing that I wanted to mention here is it's definitely a good idea to create some issues in a project. It's a good first, because somebody could just extend the documentation. If it's easy parts, if it's more difficult part, obviously not. But the other thing is what I thought, and maybe there's a product like that already out there, but if not, it would be definitely a good idea, is having now these days ChatGPT and all the AI tools. It should be rather easy to build it to where you just outline a little bit the process of onboarding or whatever part you want to document, and it should build the whole documentation for you and make it easier, make it more enjoyable. I understand as a coder that it's much more fun to write code because you can immediately test it and you know that it works. But the writing text is not something that everybody enjoys, and typos and not finding the right words and so on. So maybe with tools like that, it will get easier if it will be easier integrated in the process of generating them as well.
Yeah, I think the tools are going to get more interesting. Graham, over to you.
Yeah, I'll go super fast. How do you get people to contribute to your documentation? You stick a note right near the top that says, hey, we welcome contributions. Please check out our contribution guidelines. If you want something, ask for it. It's the golden rule of everything. I very rarely see people doing it, and it literally takes up one line. It won't detract from your docs. But if you put it at the top, you'll get more contributions. There we go.
That's a great point, Graham. One thing that helped with our docs was someone in the community put on every docs file, you can improve these docs by clicking this link, and it will go directly to the MDX file, so the markdown file where they can make the improvements, and that really did help. So that was an amazing contribution. Again, everyone who's getting ready for Hacktoberfest, it's not about the size of the contribution, it's about the value. So adding this kind of one line, which ended up appearing on every page with a dynamic variable, was super beneficial. So thanks for that, Graham. Miranor, over to you.
Thanks, Eddie. You already said the one thing I was going to say, which is edit this page links seem to really work inside the doc. So that's, I think, a great idea. The other thing that is more of a question that I for the group, and I'd love to hear experiences and ideas, is I think even more than docs, like the first experience someone has a ton of insight about what should be in the docs, and that's kind of what I heard in Kim's description of her experience with Biodrop. And if anyone has had ideas around how to capture that first experience someone has with a repository or a project, or encourage people to share that first experience, I'd love to hear that.
I think Kim mentioned it briefly earlier, but it doesn't scale. Is kind of have that more one-to-one, let's say, with the person. So, for example, with Biodrop, well, it was called Linkfree at the time. When I used to work on it, I used to kind of share my screen in Discord, and people could join, ask questions, and contribute to the pull request that I was working on. So we're effectively both contributing to the same kind of issue and pull request. As the project grows, I still want to do that, but if I have like 60 people join the call, then I can't chat to each one individually. Well, I have tried, and then I end up being there for 4 hours and get no work done. So it's just finding that balance. So yeah, again, I'd love to hear some thoughts on that. I think I can't remember who mentioned if it was Kim or someone else, but maybe having specific calls rather than a call, a community call saying I'm going to work on Biodrop. It's like I'm going to work on the DevOps part of this. Really specific. So it's the people who are joining are more focused on the discussions and the questions, because I think a lot of the time I get people asking the same sorts of questions, like how do I get started with open source and so on, and I want to kind of keep it focused. So I think maybe doing shorter calls but more often and focused titles might really help. But I'm going to pass the mic over to Graham.
So if you want that feedback from people, ask for it. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but basically you can do some smart stuff where if it's not running on the main domain or it's in development mode by default, you can have a little pop-up that says, hey, you've got it up and running. How was it? Like, did you have any problems? and then that form can send an email off to you. Super simple way of doing it, right at the point where I've just installed everything. I'm either swearing or I'm happy. It's one or the other. If I'm swearing, I'll send you an angry rant saying, geez, your documentation sucks. I had to install loads of things you didn't say. Or I'm going to say, it was beautiful and wonderful. Thank you so much. Because I'm in the hype mode. I'm all excited. I'm more likely to give you that feedback. So same question, answer as before. Ask for it and ask for it at the appropriate time.
I really love that, Graham. You're absolutely right. So there's something that we could do again to buy a drop, and other people could do it straight away. Is just even have a link to the issues that's got the template that says kind of feedback or something like that. That Miranor was saying. I think that's such a using the GitHub issues or discussions and the templates and issues can get that up and running kind of within minutes. So I really like that idea. I'm going to make a note of that, and I'm going to pass the mic over on to YK, who's just joined, and then we're going to pass to Kim, and we're going to wind down. But before I do that, actually, Graham said to ask people for things, so I'm going to ask. Kim needs one more to get to 3,000 followers on Twitter. So please, let's get 3,005. Let's just confidently past the 3,000. I'll be super happy. You all make my day. YK, over to you.
Thanks for having me here, Eddie, and good to see you hosting spaces again. I wanted to come up here to try to answer Marino's question, but I feel like Eddie and Graham have already covered, a lot of things I, kind of wanted to say. One thing I want to kind of emphasize is, for me personally, for my personal project, what's helped is having a Discord, sort of group where people can, ask questions, ask for clarification and things like that. I found that when people ask those questions, I know, what's unclear to them. So I can add those things, answer, basically try to answer those questions preemptively before before other people ask the same question again on README. That's been helpful.
Thank you so much for sharing, YK. Yes, thank you so much for welcoming me back to Twitter Spaces. It's been a few months, but I'm planning to do a lot more now as well, so look forward to geeking out. Right, we'll be going for an hour and a half. I'm going to pass over to Kim. Apologies to, I think, Thomas, Chrissy, and a few other people who were requesting to come up on stage. We didn't get time to bring it up on stage, but I'll be doing more Twitter Spaces next week. So we'll geek out again soon. So Kim, any kind of closing notes you'd like to share? Any tips you'd like to give to people who are building a community? Any pitfalls or things not to do you'd like to share as well? Anything like that would be super useful.
That was a great tee-up. Yeah, I've been listening to all these really great ideas, and everybody, the Discord spaces and inviting first issues. There's so many great ideas that come out of the space and these kind of spaces when people are talking about open source projects and community. And it can be overwhelming when you're like, oh my God, I can't do all that, right? There's like so many options. And what you should do, or what you can do, is come to these spaces and listen to the ideas, write them down, and then say, will this solve a problem that I have in my community? So coming back to defining why you're doing something, what are you trying to do in your community? And because discourse in a forum, a discourse doesn't work for everybody. I don't need that in my community, and I know that I'm not going to do that right now, maybe in the future. But take the ideas and then look at what you're trying, a problem or an issue or something that you're trying to drive in your community, and just do one thing. And if it works, great, keep it. If it doesn't, dump it and then move on to the next. Don't try to do it all.
I love that. Amazing closing note. Don't try and do it all. It's super important, because we don't do anything well. So I really like that. And I think sharing responsibilities, I couldn't have grown EddieHub. I think in Discord there are about 15,000 people, and I couldn't have done it, without the mods and maintainers and so forth. And I think empowering others is super, super important. Perfect. And Kim has well past 3,000 followers.
Gosh.
Thank you all so much. It's made my day. I really appreciate it. And Kim, thank you so much for geeking out with us today, and everyone else who's come on stage as well. And again, apologies for the people I couldn't have time to bring up on stage, but we will do more Twitter Spaces. Everyone, have a great Wednesday wherever you are in the world. We've been going for an hour and a half. If those of you who want to geek out a little bit more, I will be going on a Discord call with Paduma to do some DevOps stuff for BioDrop. So if you want to come geek out with us, you know where to find me. And thanks again, everyone. I will mute all and give you all a chance to do some more follows and connect with people.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon, evening. Bye.